So speaking on X-Men, right? So X-Men hits a lot of people, and I think it's starting to resonate within the Black community or people of color, because the fact that Stan Lee, that was his way of social justice. Like the reason why Sentinels are chasing mutants is mutants are the analogy to Black people and people of color.
Exactly.
And Sentinels were basically racists who didn't want another type of person living with them. So like we don't, I mean, look at the fact that we have a whole African-American character in a continent, in the African continent, and the continent is rich. Now, it was created originally by Stan Lee, and it has been improved over time. But X-Men and a lot of those characters, and with like Black Panther being in the Avengers, it resonated with a lot of people of color, especially now, because they're understanding the history behind it. And then in terms of X-Men being the blueprint, I think it was because it was that big hero dynamic where everyone worked together, but it talked about real problems. Like they had a comic one, the original X-Men. So there's like X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men. And so like everyone thinks of X-Men as like Wolverine and Cyclops. And but really before that, there was Ant-Man and the Wasp. They were there was Ant-Man, the Wasp.
They were X-Men. Yeah, they were X-Men too. Because I think whenever I hear that, I always keep thinking about the Avengers.
Yes, but they were part of the X-Men, and like with Banshee, and like they were all part of the X-Men. Archangel, which then they brung back, and it was like he got it metal wings, but they changed over time. But they talked about how Hank Pym was a serial abuser. Like he used to beat on Janet Van Dyne in the comics. Like all of the other superheroes hated him because he abused his wife. And like, and they actually, they actually had ways that they dealt with it, but those are the first comics that were dealing with some of that more of a mature storyline. That just because you're a superhero, and not to the degree of DC Comics, because DC Comics was like dealing with rape, kids getting blown, like the Joker blew up a whole train full of kids, like Joker raped and shot Batgirl. He raped an older Selena Kyle. Like if you go back and look at some of the stuff and like the Killing Joke and things like that, Joker was wild. Like
wow.
And so not to the level of DC Comics where they were dealing with mature like shock value stuff, but X-Men as being at the forefront, they were dealing with like team dynamic issues, and everything wasn't so glossy. Like working on the Justice League, everything was great. People had problems. Like Scott Summers, Cyclops, didn't like Wolverine because they were. It was a love triangle. So it resonated with people because it was real. But it was also larger than life. Like they drew like characters like Cable, like his arms were drawn like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like he was huge, he was muscly, they were shiny, they were metal, and they were just doing stuff out of this world. And so you tend to resonate with that. If there's a little bit of realism in it, you resonate. Which is why the first X-Men movies people didn't really like at all, because they changed it. They were just like, where's the colors at? Where's this at? Where's that at?
Yeah.
And then you saw the resurgence. Speaking of Fox, you saw the resurgence when they did X-Men First Class, and they stuck more to the.
That was the First Class. That was like one of the best ones they did. That was definitely on point.
Especially when they detailed the friendship between Magneto and Professor X, and it was like a Malcolm and Martin. Like Magneto was like, let's kill them all and live by ourselves. And Professor X, Charles, is like, no, we got to teach them how to be better. Exactly. So having that dynamic and understanding where it comes from, I think is what keeps X-Men, and also the trading cards, knowing people of power levels and having Omega level mutants and mutants that can destroy the world. and the fact that Cable is a child of Scott Summers and Jean Grey, but like from the future, and he's like the most powerful mutant ever. Like Nathan Summers, like understanding how that started to intertwine within the future, with the past, and changing timelines, which we didn't get a lot of changing timelines in DC.
That was hard.
And somebody will know more than me, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we didn't start messing with timelines in DC until Flashpoint.
You know what? Listen, I'm not the expert, but I feel like that's what it was. I remember Flashpoint being that's that thing where we was like, okay, what's that? That's Flash.
Mm-hmm. That's when Flash goes back in time, and Flash goes basically, he breaks the time rule, he breaks the speed rule. He goes back in time and then goes back to a time where
messing everything
up. He goes back where Batman doesn't become Batman. His father actually becomes Batman, and Thomas Wayne is like vindictive, like he kills the people that he avenges or whatever it is. Like it's completely.
We won't get into that.
It's a lot of stuff. And then at the end of the Apocalypse War, which is the last movie that came out, like when basically 90% of the superheroes died in a war against Apocalypse, like literally, like they showed them die. Like Wonder Woman, I think she lost a leg and an arm. Shazam sacrificed himself. Harley Quinn got eaten. Batwoman like they just died. Right? They had to go back to Flash because he lived, and it's like, yo, you have to reset it. And so he starts taking off running to reset everything.
Yeah.
So
that's
everything else. But that's the stories that's the stories that get you like you so drawn into it. And then real quick, if you want to look for a comic book for your daughter, look up Nubia. It is a young girl who is I think she's mixed. I think she's Afro-Latina. And she has Wonder Woman's powers, and she's living in an urban city. I brought it for my daughter, and she loves it. And
that is dope.
It's almost like a graphic novel, and it's called Nubia. And it's
my daughter's she's in the comics too. But that'll be definitely something good for her to look into, because she's been asking me like like what comics could she get into, because she starts looking toward the Japanese anime graphic novels. But I definitely want her to relate to something that that she can identify with. So
I would say start with Nubia, and then another one, just dropping some stuff from you guys. There is a series. It's 5 so far. I think 4. Issue 4 just dropped, but it's called The Other Side of the DC Universe, and it's written by the gentleman who won an Oscar for writing and I believe directing 12 Years a Slave. So the artwork on the front, everything is dope, and it basically takes a lot of these fringe characters of color that were in a lot of stories from the 70s to the 80s, and it gives them a true backstory, and also it looks at them. It looks as the evolution of the superheroes through their eyes. Like one of the first stories is talking about a character who, what was his name? He played like the Horn of Jacob, and he didn't have a superpower really, but he had an exosuit. And then it was funny, like it addressed his character getting retconned and his suit being changed. It also addressed him being upset with Superman, like why Superman doesn't cross to his side of Midway City. Why is there crime? Why is Superman not taking the drug dealers out on his block? Which is why he became a superhero. He becomes a low-level superhero, and he's beating up the drug dealers. And then Superman comes down to chastise him. And in one of the best scenes, he was like the panels. He was like, you want to fight? You're not gonna come down here and tell me how to deal with the criminals in my neighborhood who are killing my people. And this is the only time you've come over here. And he was like, that's the proudest moment, because he stood up against Superman. It's like, your way of living is not how everyone lives. And you don't come over here to help us. You stay in Metropolis. He said, so you can't come over here and tell me how to be a superhero when I got, 18-year-old kids dying. It was Black Lightning. Sorry. It was Black. It was the first series was detailing Black Lightning's evolution as a superhero.
Man, that's a good show, by the way. That's
which a lot of people didn't see. It didn't get a lot of production value.
y'all jumping ahead like yo, y'all. I mean, it's cool because
all right. Well,
I
won't go too far.
No. You good. Because I'm in like in my head. I'm kind of like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna talk about that Black Lightning because
yes.
But I'm gonna come back to Black Lightning.
Okay.
But so we had X-Men. Correct me if I'm wrong, but then comes the Batman series
on TV.
X-Men,
the animated Batman series. Yeah,
that was on point. Definitely, that was a Emmy winner for sure.
Yes. What's your impact? How did the Batman series impact you? Like, what was that?
I loved it. Because it came on during the week. It was like, do you remember that Fox Kids? It had it was a block of like TV shows.
Yeah.
And because later on it was like WB, and that's when we get Static Shock. But I'm probably jumping ahead. But I like Batman the series because it was like just a little bit more aggressive. Like because you had your villains had guns, and the guns were actually shooting people. Like people would die on an episode, like or get horribly maimed, like Roland Daggett, who became Clayface. Like understanding how that completely messed with and hurt his psyche, and having to kill and give up a piece of himself in order to die. Like they had a lot of mature themes that they interspliced throughout the different episodes, and I think it had an effect. I'm sorry. I was just trying to figure out what sound that was. It had an effect on us because people got to see more of Batman. Because because Marvel was the big comic book, series. Everyone wanted to be a part or read Marvel comics. Exactly. And like a lot of the true comic book heads and collectors, they would read DC comics as well. And even that time, was it Icon or Epic? They came out, and you had like Spawn and stuff. That's another Black character. So to be able to see Batman and to see more of his stories and his backstory, I think that got even more people into DC comics. Like, because that's the difference. That's the juxtaposition. Marvel is going to have world-ending events, but for the most part, 9 times out of 10, everybody's going to survive. In DC, your favorite character might die the second panel of the comic. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and be dead. Like, he's not coming back. Like, he's dead.
Right.
So, that's so if you like more of a darker storyline, then you're gonna be more of a DC fan. And if you like kind of more of that light, bright, airy type of comic, then you're gonna be a Marvel fan. And you're gonna just be both because you like them both for what they are.
Right. And so you got Batman, right? Batman. I want to say that Batman Beyond comes up to that.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Batman Beyond, which I didn't get it. I think at that time I started getting older, so I really didn't watch Batman.
That was a good show. Right. That was a good show.
Right.
That was a good show.
Because what I missed, and actually now that I think about it, I saw pieces of it that in comes Static.
Mm-hmm.
Was Static before, or was it during the time like of Batman Beyond? Were they like just one day? Because I know that they related. I think he's kind of trained him, Batman, if I'm not mistaken.
With Static Shock or with Batman Beyond?
Static Shock was on Batman Beyond or Batman. I don't know if he was on Batman or was Batman Beyond.
I'm not sure if he was. I would assume it's Batman Beyond as an older Static Shock.
Right. It was.
Because Batman Beyond was like in the future, like 2025 or something. Yeah. I think Static Shock started coming towards the middle or tail end of Batman Beyond because they wanted to tap into having a Black superhero or see what that was. And I love Static Shock because Static Shock talked about, and if you have HBO Max, the whole entire is on HBO Max. Nice. So if you got HBO Max, you can watch Static Shock commercial free. You know what I mean? I watched it with my kids, and they talked about gang. They talked about being in gangs, the dangers of being in gangs.
I got shot on that.
Yeah, racism. like even having white friends, but their parents being raised, you know, like they dealt with so many. Like one of my favorite issues is when Virgil, when Static Shock, when he time travels, right, to save his mom, because the whole thing is his mom died. His mom died before the show, and I believe she died of like gang violence, like straight bullet or something. And he goes back in time to try to save her, and then there's the whole realization that he can't, because you can't. The reason he goes back in time is her. So if he saves her, then there's no longer a reason for him to go back in time, and there's no longer him getting powers of being out that night. So then you can't change it like that. And so he has this whole tearful goodbye where he has to realize he can't save his mom. But like growing up and becoming an adult, he realizes, but at least I got to talk to her one last time. You know what I mean? Like that's Static Shock used to have writing, or had writing like that. Shout out to Phil Lamar, who's like the voice of everybody. You know, Phil Lamar being on Static Shock. So
he's dope.
Yes. Dope. So it's just awesome, man. There's so much in terms of current stuff in nerd culture, and there's so much stuff when you go back and look at it and you realize, wow, like we had this, like we had Spawn. Spawn was a black character. He's an anti-hero, but you realize you had Spawn and how big.
I was collecting that for like the longest, man. Like I still got like a collection of Spawn comics in my closet.
And DC didn't want it. That's why Todd McFarlane left and created Spawn on his own.
Yeah.
Like and it was huge. And it got a car. Like the HBO series Spawn was so good.
It was good. Yep.
And I like Michael Jai White, but that movie was basura.
That was horrible. Like the animated series, and by the way, I think McFarlane said he was working on coming out with another movie. Like he's trying to redo it. He's trying to redo it and everything.
So Black Lightning.
Yes, let's get on Black Lightning.
Black Lightning. First of all, the first, that brings the first lesbian superhero, or black lesbian superhero ever, right?
On TV. Yep.
So
comics,
right? So take me through the history, because from my research, from what I remember, that Black Lightning was I don't want to say banned, but there was a creative difference of, it was a reason why he didn't come out originally. And then I think they came around and then they brought him back. But he was, I want to say he was created in that 60s, line of 60s, comics.
60s and 70s.
Right.
He was originally an athlete. So the story behind Black Lightning, right, is his father was killed. Again, gang, violence, inner city violence, and which I really like the new storyline, which is the other side of DC. They talk about how everyone kept telling he was fast, but the thing that haunts him is he wasn't fast enough that day to go save his dad. So it always like messed him up, but that drove him to the Olympics. So Black Lightning is that first, or one of the first characters that wasn't a metahuman at first, but just trained his body to peak physicality. So he won a gold medal in the Olympics. He was an Olympian. He boxed, all these other things, and he had an education. Like he had 2 degrees, and he comes back to Midway City. He comes back and he becomes a teacher. But what happens is his powers start to manifest late, and he realizes he has these powers. So he becomes essentially like Daredevil. He becomes like Marvel's Daredevil. He's a low-level street superhero. So he, like I said, he's beating up the drug dealers, the pimps, pushers, child molesters, car thieves. Like he's trying to legit clean up his neighborhood while cleaning up his school, which was great because people never focus on the fact that he was an educator in the comics. He became principal of the high school he graduated from. So he's trying to mold minds while being a superhero at the same time. And it was a great juxtaposition because towards the end of his superhero career, he realized he probably made more of an impact being a teacher and educating the youth versus beating up breaking his body, beating up other villains or what end up super villains. So, and he becomes they want him to be part of the Justice League. So he's kind of like a side member of the Justice League, but ultimately is more of your street level superhero. And when the push, or when the craze, I should say, is like a lot of people were overcorrecting and we got to give black people a show, and it's like we'll just try to do it organically, right. But they were like, oh, let's give a show Black Lightning, and it was obscure, because unless you were a comic book fan, you didn't know that there was a character named Black Lightning.
That is
you didn't know.
True. Very true.
You didn't know it. So then when you watched it and then you saw the production value, which was, you could tell was way different than what they put into the Flash series or what they put into Green Arrow. Like literally it goes in a hierarchy. They put a ton of money into Green Arrow, the next amount of money into Flash. Then it was, what was it? Not DC United. What was the one they had all the DC characters in there? I forgot the name of it. It was like DC Superheroes.
Then
it was like DC, Supergirl.
Legends.
Yeah, DC Legends. Then it was like Supergirl. Then it was like Black Lightning in terms of like production value.
That's a fact. Right.
That's
crazy. I felt like it was like
just almost thrown together.
Almost like, what's the name of the movie with Robert Townsend?
Meteor Man.
Yeah.
It feels like that.
And you're right. I thought they just made a comic book, something for black people to watch, But then I was like, yo, like it's a legit comic book.
Yeah, it was obscure. Like again, it was obscure, but they wanted to cash in on the fact that the black community was embracing these things and outwardly embracing them. So they're like, well, let's do a show. And they had some themes, they had some things that were done well, but I don't think the CW gave it their full attention, because you could tell on shows they did. Like one of my favorite shows, which was Jane the Virgin. My wife and I used to love watching that show. It was funny as hell, yo, for real. But you could tell the production value on Jane the Virgin was like up there compared to watching Black Lightning. And then even if you weren't a fan of the Flash, you could tell they were putting more money. They put some more money into Flash. They even had Ezra Miller, the actor who played Flash in the DC universe, actually was on the show as a alternate universe Flash. Like they brought an act to connect all the Flashes, whereas there was a lot of characters that you didn't know.
Shout out to Canada.
Yeah.
All those are Canadian
actors,
Canadian.
Or British, because they never like to hire an actual United States African American. They'll hire British dude, which is not a bad thing. But I'm just saying it's just funny because you'll like Key and Peele did a sketch. It's like, so why are you being an actor? He's like, well, I'm actually from this neighborhood and my brother actually got killed over there. Like, oh yeah, you're great. We'll hire you for an extra. And then there's a British guy. He's like, I went to Cambridge and great, you're hired, but no, just because they're all great actors. You were all black. But what they did to Black Lightning with low production value is what I assume they attempted to do with Blade. So when Blade came out, it wasn't originally, this is a Marvel film. Like I don't think they.
Nope. Yeah, they did not attach Marvel to it as much as you see Marvel everywhere now. It was like standalone.
Yes, it was not. No one knew Blade was an actual comic character, and because they didn't think it was going to sell, and so, but once. And Wesley Snipes actually read the comic, and I was like, well, I want to try to play it up as close as it can be to what you would think a black vampire / vampire hunter from the hood would be. It became this massive success. And as one of the first movies that are like, comic book movies can be successful and can rake in money for us.
That was a good movie, man.
Oh, it was did their thing with it. It was great. Now they're redoing it, which I'm excited to see. Mahershala Ali, he's taking over Blade now, and they're adding him into the Marvel universe. So he's in Phase 4. So like
I gotta check that out. I didn't know about that.
Oh man, yeah, I can't wait to see that. That's gonna be dope, man.
Because like right now in September, they're dropping Shang-Chi and
that looks
the
dope.
10 Rings.
That looks so dope.
And then they're gonna drop a new Blade movie, and they're adding him into the universe. So like he's gonna like mingle with Shang-Chi. He's gonna mingle with Stephen Strange, because especially with Wanda, because they are going to be dealing with more of the magical, mystical element.
Stephen Strange,
Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange. Yeah. And then with Scarlet Witch, because in the TV show they opened up more of her like more magical, mystical powers. They're doing that because they're going to add more magical elements, so that way when they introduce Blade, he's actually going to be fighting zombies in the Marvel universe. Which is why you see Morbius it has his movie coming out, and he's in the Spider-Man universe, because now with Morbius coming out, who is a vampire, now you have another villain for Blade to possibly interact with, which means he possibly interacts with Spider-Man, which means he possibly interacts with the Avengers. Daredevil is coming into the MCU.
They're gonna bring it into it because that series is on point too.
Oh yeah, they actually got the same actor, Charlie Cox. They got him.
Good.
He's going to be, and he filmed a couple of scenes in the new Spider-Man movie, but they're keeping it under wraps whether or not he's in as Daredevil or whether he's in there as Matt Murdock. But he is in the new Spider-Man movie. That's
dope.
It all connects. And that's the one thing Marvel has done so much better than DCU, is they're completely connecting their universe now.
I say I give that to Disney, man. Disney wants to make that money.
The story was that when they were first started doing comic book movies, the dude at Fox, so Fox would have had like literally all of Marvel. But the head of Fox at the time, so like 1999, 2000, walked into the meeting, and before he talked with his liaison, he said, "Listen, just get Spider-Man and dump the rest." And so he walked into they walked into the meeting, brought Spider-Man, and I think X-Men got thrown in as a package. Wow. And that's why you had the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, and that's why you didn't have anything else. That's why there was no other Marvel superhero involved in Spider-Man, because they just own the rights, which is why now Marvel, because Disney finally got the rights back to Spider-Man, which is why Spider-Man showed up in Civil War.
I found that so strange. I didn't even notice it. Like, I'm like, yo, Fox owns.
It makes sense now. Yeah.
X-Men.
Yep.
I'm like, I was wondering, like, why didn't Disney have X-Men? Then I was like,
because they didn't own it. They didn't own the rights, which is
that's crazy.
Which is
do they own the rights now? Do they own the rights?
Yes, they own the rights to X-Men. They're redoing the whole thing, and now when you see the Avengers, they're gonna start talking more about mutants, because that's why if you ever watch all the older the first Avengers or Marvel movies, they never mentioned mutant. Because they couldn't, because technically mutant is copyrighted under X-Men.
Yeah.
So they couldn't mention someone was a mutant. They just said, "Oh, they're enhanced," which is why they had to change the Wanda and Pietro story. Pietro, because Wanda and Pietro are really Magneto's children. They're Magneto. Wanda and Pietro, which is Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Are
I know. You're right about that.
They're Magneto's children, but they couldn't introduce them as Magneto's children in Avengers Part 2, so they said, "Oh, they're enhanced," and they used one of the stones to give them their powers. But now, when you watch it now, like especially if you watch the WandaVision on Disney,
I still got to get in that. I still have.
It's good. I enjoyed it. It when you watch it, it unravels a lot. But WandaVision starts to talk about, like I said, it taps into the magical part, and it starts to kind of make allusions to the parentage of those two characters. It's trying to tie up loose ends, especially because they got the Quicksilver character from the Fox X-Men movies, and he made a cameo appearance on WandaVision. And they were like, wait a minute, they recast him from, like they made a whole thing about it that this is not the same person that died in Sokovia, but it's someone else. So it's super interesting now that Disney owns it and the directions that they're going, which is why all the series stopped on Netflix. Like they stopped. They stopped. They stopped Daredevil. They stopped Luke Cage. They stopped Jessica Jones
because they want to bring them in. Just Disney owns them now, and they want to bring them. Okay, gotcha.
So they said, okay, we're not giving away this for free now, especially because they saw that for a time, those were carrying Netflix. Like when Daredevil,
they were.
Hey, when Luke Cage hit, Luke Cage shut down Netflix. Like so many people hopped on to watch the first episode of Luke Cage. Like it crashed Netflix.
It crashed it.
That's crazy.
Like it was wild. Like you couldn't watch it for like 2 hours. Like they had to like redo the servers and everything. And it was so much of the social justice impact that it had. Like people like resonated with Luke Cage like crazy. And so now they were like, let's kind of kill some of these characters or stop it, and then let's keep it in our back pocket because the actors can't portray those characters anywhere else. So just characters for 3 years, so they could kind of keep them in their back pocket to pull them into the universe. So like that's why Charlie Cox is now going to revise his Daredevil role. I don't know if they're going to do the same thing with the Luke Cage actor. Jessica Jones might show up at some point. So it's about to get real in the next 5-6 years and more. It's going to be a lot of fun stuff happening.
That's crazy because I'm glad to see that they're venturing past the Infinity War and Infinity Gauntlet because I thought after the Infinity War, I thought they were going to follow like they did like with the comic books. Like that was pretty much going to be it. But I mean, but they're kind of doing it like the comics because it's like a whole restart over that took place in the comics. So they're kind of restarting over with this. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's a good show. But I'm behind, man, because I've been busy. I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of stuff.
I make my kids watch them, so it's like our family time. So like, we're gonna watch it together. Like we were gonna watch Loki. Like they were gonna watch it, and they were like, my wife was like, "Honey, have you watched it yet?" I was like, "No, I haven't seen it." Okay, we'll wait. So we'll watch. But because my daughter's really into anime, like she's heavy into it with me. My son, he's a little bit, but my daughter's getting heavy into it, and she likes me. She likes watching it subtitle. Like she's like, and I guess it's because I say all the time. She's like, I hate it. It sounds so stupid when they dub it. So she watches it. She'll watch.
I like it. I get it. I watch it getting a good laugh, man. It's funny to me. I like it.
I don't like dubbed. It just sounds weird. Like, and I heard the best analogy of it because they were like, "Oh, how can you say that? You don't know if Japanese voice actors are giving the best, acting performance." And a comedian said it. A comedian was like, "So you telling me that I can't enjoy an anime in its original language?" He's like, that's like going to Korea, listening to The Simpsons and like getting pissed off that The Simpsons are dubbed in Korean. It was like, of course it's going to sound better in a native language. And it was like, so it was crazy.
Man, what I wanted to ask you. In fact, we're going to play a little game real quick. I'm going to mention some.
We kind of have to go real quick because my red light is going. And so my camera might pop off on me, so let's try.
All right, so I'm gonna run this real quick. I'm gonna run a couple things by you real quick.
Okay.
So Cloak and Dagger. Just give me the first thing that comes.
I enjoyed it. I wish the series would have took more of the comic book origins, meaning the fact that they're from New York City and kind of like the drug aspect and how they're always better together than further apart. And they did have that in the show, but it really made an impact in the comic where they were very codependent on each other. But it was it was groundbreaking because it was a black man and a white woman, and they were together, but not necessarily in a relationship. So the comic, the show, I think it was on Freeform or what it was. It was okay. I watched it. I like the music. The soundtrack to it was cool. Like they had a lot of good music in it.
Pennyworth.
I haven't seen them. Like it and Pennyworth. I can speak from because I remember my favorite one, which was the one that came out in the 90s, like 91. The TV series one that was like a mini series. I watched that one as a kid, so I know the story, but I haven't seen the new ones. So I gotta like quickly
get it. Really now I understand why Batman is Batman.
And why? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I thought you said Pennywise. That's why I said it. So Pennyworth, the Alfred backstory. Yeah. I have not watched that. No.
Oh, bro,
he got me onto it, but I gotta finish. I haven't finished the season.
With Pennyworth, you'll understand why Batman is Batman. It goes back to where Alfred was born. It describes how he met Batman's father.
Yeah.
And then it goes to a lot of things. But listen, man, we appreciate you coming on here because this is actually something that we never tapped into. You know what I'm saying? So we try to tap into all of the all types of subjects. Just with Chord Room. Yeah. Chord Room was where all creativity lives, man. So
that's what's up.
Come on here and be creative, do whatever you want, and we'll do a part 2 to this, man.
Definitely, man. It was a vibe, like for real. Like I really like, even if we just got to set up like a FaceTime and just talk. Like it don't even have to be recorded. Like this was dope. Like I appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. Listen, bro. I listen. It's always good to see you, man.
Yes.
I'm gonna make my plans to come out there and see you, bro. I promise you that.
That's what's up. You'll be surprised and be like, yo, this is Nebraska. How you making it out?
But dog, man, we appreciate you. Thanks a lot for giving us so much backstory. We're gonna come on. We're gonna do this again, man.
Right. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And hey, if anybody wants to check me out, I am on Anchor. I am on Spotify. I'm on Apple Podcasts. You can catch me on Instagram, dropping videos, as well as YouTube. I appreciate it.
No worries. It's a Big Blerd episode. It's the Chord Room. We'll check y'all later. Same bad time, same bad channel.
All right. Peace out.
All right, bro.
Yep.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. Take care, man.